Well, what's the crack, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Tom O'Mahony Show. How are we keeping? Are you well? Are you well? It's Friday the 7th. The 7th of July, if you don't know. How are you keeping? Live podcast alert. The 25th of August, I'm going to be in the Roundy as part of the Cork Podcast Festival. And my guest will be the unreal Chris Kent. It will. Chris Kent is going to be there with me. I'm very, very excited. So go to the link in the show notes for all the usual things. But I have the tickets for everything listed inside there. Chris actually will be with me the following night down in my comedy club in the Hill on the 26th. That goes on sale today as you're getting this. Excuse me. Big slug of tea there. Totally unprofessional. So like I said, Chris will be with me in the Hill. And he'll be with me at my live podcast on the 25th and 26th. So all sorts of Chris Kent. Go get your tickets now. There's a handful left for the 5th of August in the Hill with Emma Dorn. I think there's 12 left. So if you want him, go get him for one of the best comedy clubs in the country. Of course, my tour is on sale now as well, which doesn't kick off till November. But the likes of Cork is damn near sold out in Coughlin's. The Hill is over half gone. Thanks be to God, UCH is selling. Thank you very much to all the people who bought tickets so far to the biggest venue I'll have done of a solo show ever in Limerick on all throughout November. So go have a gander in the show notes if you're thinking, I'd like to go see Tom's new show, Thick Enough, or what's Tom like as a stand-up? Well, in that same link tree, you'll see at the top, my previous special was recorded in 2022 called Clattered. Go have a watch of that tonight. Sit down with a couple of cans, watch it, have the crack, get a vibe of what happens, and come see me in November for the brand new show that's already written. I'm going to be busting it out all over the country, trying to get it nice and refined for you. But that kicks off in November. I mentioned the Patreons, you know the crack. They got this last night. They actually got this Wednesday night. They got it ad free. And along with that, you typically get the videos as well. You get the live podcasts that we do over stream, that we don't record, and we have a right bit of crack. As well as that, it helps contribute to the show. I know people like to give a few pound or whatever like that. This is the best way to do it. You can do the coffee thing where you can buy me a coffee or whatever, but you don't get an end result. You can buy merch, I suppose, too, but really Patreon is the way to go. If you want to go through that, you get a load of benefits and all the rest of it. There's a rake of stuff there, like the Ramble Pod, which is a midweek podcast that I do purely for the Patreons. It's Patreon only stuff, you know what I mean? It's I can do no more for you. I can do no more. So that's how you'd support the show. For everything else I mentioned, all in that link. Have a look through it. There's plenty there to keep you entertained. Anyway, moving on to today's guests. They are the returning gentlemen of one of the best podcasts out there in Monster Fuzz. I absolutely love these two lads. Do you know, like we talked for 45 minutes before we kicked off this, and you see the length of it. Mother of divine Jesus. We could have talked, and we talked again for another half an hour afterwards. That's how easy and how fun it is to hang out with these two absolute brilliant podcasters, but absolute messers as well. So sit back and enjoy. And if you haven't subscribed to the Monster Fuzz podcast, do. But enjoy my time, as because I did, with Rob and Eamon of Monster Fuzz. Well, I'm delighted and excited to have back the Boyz from Wexford. I'm pretty sure that'd make a great band name. It is, of course, Rob and Eamon of Monster Fuzz. How are the men keeping you well?
Oh Lord, it's Tom. How are you getting on, Tom?
Oh my God, never better. How are you, bud?
Jesus, I'm all right. I know. I came in there all radio, like pretend that we weren't talking for the
it was
last
very
half an hour.
pro.
Yeah.
I liked it. Yeah, I liked it. I liked that a lot.
Sure is you've gone on it since the last time, huh?
I know. I got a new mic, lads, in the new chair, and I don't know what to do with myself since I feel half, I don't know, English or something sitting in it. I don't feel comfortable. I just have to say that straight out the gate. I go, the two boys, people will have known the two lads. I think there's, as we talked about before, there's a fair old Venn diagram between the two of us on my show. I changed name. I don't know if you noticed that. I left Buckshot behind.
This is Tom O'Mahony show now, is it?
Yeah. Well, I know it's really big headed of me to actually name it after myself, but it was. I got a kind of not my comeuppance, but my coattails pulled by Andy Rowe. He has the Andy Rowe show. He's part of a very big podcast group in America or in the UK, and he was like, "What the fuck are you calling it? Fucking anything but your name." I went, oh yeah. He says, is there anything specific you talk about, like sporting wise? I went, no. He went, well, then call it after your fucking name, because I guarantee if you ask your Patreons, everybody just calls it a Tom O'Mahony show. Turns out he was 100% right. But it took me like 250 episodes to let my Irish ego allow it, or lack of ego. You know,
I was about to say, it's the
like rather than the Robin Eamon Monster Show, which would still be a great name.
It's quite a good name, actually, to be fair.
Which you could, fuck, did I just stuff
you may have.
I'm on Spreaker right now, actually changing that. The RSS is fucked.
Fuck, new logos needed. New logos needed. Well, don't get that tramp that fucking Digi the last time when we were on.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, they fucking got us in lawsuit Fuzz that time. Yeah, that wasn't a good crack.
I've told that story to a few people when they go, sure, I'm after getting a fella in Taipei there. He's going to got fucked.
Pay the artists, yeah. For the listeners who don't know what we're talking about, basically, really quickly, we went on to Fiverr.com to do it, which is actually quite antiquated now because you would use Midjourney, right? You get your AI generated logo nowadays.
Because that robs from everyone, not just one person. It's much better.
Yeah, it's a communist kind of setup there where it takes a little bit from everyone. But it's, like we kind of, we bought a logo, we thought it was all legit, and then maybe 6 months to a year into the podcast, we got a message from someone and was like, that's the art from my book. And we were like, oh, that's interesting.
We were like, never heard of it. No, to be fair, he was very rude in his initial message, assuming we were a pair of thieves, but we did we mended that wall.
I'd assume we were a pair of thieves as well, to be fair.
We still are to a certain extent.
100%. Like, but sure, I still get strikes on YouTube for my own fucking whatchamacallit, which my own intro, which I bought, but I will be needing because Eamon, you do an amazing intro. I know we talked about it before. Man. Yeah, he's a jingle guy. Now
the only thing is, we bought off the fella who wrote all the music with a t-shirt, a Monster Fuzz t-shirt. So I don't know how that's going to hold up in court objectively in the future. But
did he get that t-shirt? He did.
I think his wife wears it most of the time. So look, once he gets rid of her, he's coming after us. That's all I know, man. That's all I know.
She's getting a t-shirt in the divorce. Yeah. But I want to I've asked you a couple of times back on, and just trying to link up and tie together and whatnot. It's always a tricky fate, and of course you're in a different time zone, being in Wexford and all the rest. So
sunny southeast down here, son. All the Mexicans going around.
I tell you, it's an odd county, isn't it? Like I like it.
I like Wicklow. I like Wexford. They're my two favourites, I think.
All the W's.
There's a lot going on in that. From town to town, there literally is. Like, I was in Enniscorthy a couple of months ago, and it was a great gig, but like, to use your own terminology, was full of cryptids, lads. I'm not joking. There was lads with 4 arms and fucking 3 fucking heads.
I'm sure. I'm actually surprised you made it out there, to be honest with you. But
that's like some Wicker Man shit might go down there. That's what when I'm in Enniscorthy, I feel like that one of us, like, something's gonna happen. You know?
How is every single direction uphill? How is every direction?
Oh, stop it! Yeah. Imagine learning to drive there. I always got anxiety driving through that place. I'm like, oh Lord of mercy. There's actually, interestingly enough, not far from there as well, we were listening to a podcast. There's a guy that we've had on a lot, Tim. He's a friend of ours he has the Strange Familiars podcast, but he had a guy on, a guest who was he was American but totally unrelated to us, and he was saying he was actually talking about Enniscorthy as well, and he said something similar. But there's also, not too far outside Enniscorthy, I suppose it's more Carlow, but you've got Clonegall as well, which is a witchy castle. Have you ever been up Clonegall way?
I definitely have. Yeah.
That's so there's all there's like one of the oldest, I suppose the oldest witchcraft sort of places up in Clonegall there in Ireland anyway, and it's actually called the Temple of Isis. It's not the RPG Isis, but
not to be confused with
not to be confused with the Mujahideen, which by the way are in Wexford. I'll tell you that, but that's not them. That's not them.
No, it's not.
You see those Hiluxes driving around that they love. You know, those lads love ISIS and they love Hilux. The same as a lot of fellas in Wexford love a fucking Hilux. But do you know what? It's interesting you say that, because I have a fact that you'd love. You would love is that Edenderry in Offaly is the occult capital of Ireland.
Is it?
Yeah, 100%.
Jeez, I didn't know that.
Yeah. We lived near there once upon a time, and I remember talking to this woman in a vegetable shop.
Mm.
And we were just chit chatting about alternative. She goes, "What did you know?" And she just brought up and gave all these different examples of how groups of Satanists and whatnot will meet on certain solstices and stuff. And I was like, "Are you sure they're not just the Druid lads that love an old bit of?" Oh no. These aren't the Druid lads. These lads will, the amount of sacrifices that have been found in the forests around here and stuff in the way of crows and shit like that. I was like, oh, rat. Awfully.
Blair Witch.
Yeah. Blair fucking Witch as well. Blair Witch and Offaly, which in fairness is aka
if you had to pick a county, it'd be Offaly most
It would,
likely.
wouldn't it?
Yeah,
it
to
would.
be fair.
Believed to be the center of the universe at one point. The center of the planet. The Western Hemisphere anyway. Yeah, Offaly, believe it or not.
That is a word. You're hitting us with all this weird trivia today, Tom. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I'm into this.
I had no intentions, lads, but I'm full to the gills with fucking mushrooms right now. So I just said
Which kind? The druid kind or
the druid
just...
kind, yeah.
Oh, nice.
I've been dabbling in lion's mane and chaga, lads, so I may come out with some fucking speaking in tongues before the end of the show, like.
Nice. How did Lion's Mane is like, that's a supplement, yeah?
Oh, it's fucking powerful stuff, honest to God.
Is it good, yeah?
You might be snogging the face off your best friend, but
all right, well, I've done that.
That's fine. I mean, if we weren't all over Zoom here, we'd probably be shifting.
We'd be making more money, I tell you that much. We'd be making more money if we were doing that.
But no, it's good. It's good tech. It's good tech for memory recall. Weird stuff. You'll go, fuck me. Did I? All right, so I did actually get fucking suspended from school that time. You know that shit you blank out of your brain?
Yeah.
Like stuff.
Did that priest touch me in 1996?
Yeah, no good memories. No good memories.
Oh no.
To be fair, yeah, Gordo, I was up with him and he gave me the Alpha Brain or whatever the derivative.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was that specific one. It was basically the same thing, but it was loaded. Every pill was loaded with lion's mane, and it's like drinking, I don't know, tell me if this is what you're feeling. It's like drinking 20 cups of coffee with none of the jitters.
Yeah. Like,
it's wild. It's a wild sensation.
If you have something to be done, to be getting on with, say you got an episode to put together or whatever beforehand. If you can leave the phone away from you, which is the whore of a thing, but you will abso-fucking-lutely get it done. Like, and but what I find it good for is recall. Like, say I'm hosting a show or whatever. It buys you 5 seconds brain wise. Now you kind of, as a comedian, you kind of train your brain to that anyway. But it's nice to actually grease the wheels with something healthy too. Like, rather than just cranking a fucking monster into you, going, right, how's everybody doing? Are you well? Any couples in the house tonight? Where you just foaming at the fucking mouth. Like, at least this just greases the wheels nicely. Like,
Yeah.
But for
do drink? Sorry to cut you out there. Would you ever drink before you go on to kind of calm the nerves a little bit?
No.
Now you say you like the clarity.
Because if anything, I used to treat it as a competition between me and them, but now in my later years, I have absolutely clicked over to it's all about them. And me being the professional who's going to garner a good evening. I'm the conduit to them forgetting about the fucking mortgage, forgetting about the wife that doesn't like him, or the fella that or the fucking prick of a neighbor. So I want them to enjoy a drink. Whereas if I'm to be that guy, while I like joining in with them to a degree, not there. Do you know what I mean? But so I trained early doors in never having a drink, because if it's me against G, I at least have one advantage, is that I'm not drunk. But now I'm in a place where I wouldn't fucking do it to you, because it's just disrespectful to the audience. It's in that, and I don't get nervous either. I get really fucking excited. Really excited.
That's a huge thing, to be fair. If you're just, because usually I'll medicate myself with a pint or two or something, like just enough to limber me up and get rid of the deep sense of unease I feel.
Yeah.
And again, I've never done stand up. For me, it was just music, or when me and Rob did our show. But at least with music, you can hide behind the music to a certain extent. Like, stand up always felt like the most scary form of art to me.
Like, you're putting your neck on the line, like, aren't you? Sure, like we were half cut. I think there's a few Valiums in there when we were on stage.
We had some Brazilian Valiums, didn't we? Yeah, the ones I brought back from Rio de Janeiro.
Benzodiazepinas were getting popped.
Benzodiazepines.
There was like a fada in the middle of it as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Eamon brought me back from Brazil, and he goes, he's like, I don't think they work.
I thought I was Ice Cube. I was like, these ain't shit.
I was like, yeah, I don't think they work. And there was one night I was tossing and turning, and I said, fuck it, I'll take one of them benzodiazepinas. I woke up the next morning like Cillian Murphy, and fucking 28 days later, me and Mickey hanging out, and I didn't know what time of day it was, what had happened, what had fucking passed. I was like, Eamon, they're fucking strong as fuck, son. They definitely work.
Yeah, I'd be mixing them with dry sherries and all, seeing how far I can take it, throwing in some laxatives at the same time. Fuck it, let's see what happens.
Turn off the phone, lads, I'm staying in.
Yeah.
Or put on the nappy, I'm lying down for an hour, see how this works.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, because you did a live show in the Sugar Club, and a great spot to do, because people get comfy. Do you know what I mean? There's a good I've done stand up there a couple of times, and I nearly don't like how comfy people get. You know what I mean? It's an armchair. Not that I want people sitting on broken glass, but I kind of want people upright and fucking in it. But when I was actually at one of Gordo's podcasts, and I went, oh, this is what this room is for.
Exactly.
Perfect. People are sitting back. It's a there's drinks, the bar's right. It's fucking perfect.
It's the closest thing. I think it's the closest venue to what you're usually doing when you're listening to a podcast outside of like intense manual labor.
Or masturbation,
chronic masturbation. Yeah, you're listening to the How to Stop Masturbating podcast as you're destroying yourself. Yeah,
pulling yourself.
Maybe next episode.
Gordo was brilliant as well. Like, because he came down for it, and like he was just so helpful. Because I don't know if you could. I'm sure you can remember your first show, but it was just like, Jesus, like he sort of crossed the T's and dotted the I's for us and made sure everyone was having a good night. Like he was sending pizzas down to everyone and fucking brought us drinks down when we were on stage and stuff. It was a great night. So, but yeah, definitely a fucking learning experience for sure.
Yeah, I did something similar now when I did my live show of the 200 episode. It was during lockdown, really.
Oh yeah, right, yeah.
We shouldn't have sold as well as we did, but look at. that's how it goes.
Where did you do that?
That was in the Roisin Dove or something.
Oh,
yes,
Galway,
yeah. Right, nice.
It was Gordo and
Colin
Geddes.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And sure, fucking Gordo sure was fucking channeling his drinking fucking boots into myself and Geddes, like, so he was just going. I hear what you're saying. Talk away amongst yourselves there, lads. Anyway, and there was, but it was absolutely warranted, and it wasn't in the same vein at all as stand up.
How did you find it actually? Like, so live podcast versus stand up. Like, how did you find it? What was the differences?
The big thing I noticed was what I was kind of feeling internally was, oh geez, am I cheating these people out of this? Because we're not banging out, like we were coming out with singers like we're doing now, having the banter, like, but it didn't feel like, oh, I'm not curtailing everything for the people. We're nearly chatting amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
And at the beginning I was going, no, what the fuck what are we doing? This is for
And
then I realized everybody was leaning forward. This is actually what people do with podcasts. They just listen in.
Yeah.
It's not very same with us.
Yeah. So it's in a weird medium. I was kind of going, this shouldn't really work. Like, podcasts are supposed to be in your phone, but you're all here. But it was mental. Like, there was a bunch of people. Like, it was great. Like, a load of the patrons actually met up before and had a barbecue, and like they made a cake and everything with my face on it. It was like,
awesome.
My very Irishness couldn't deal with the love. So I couldn't. I had to get really fucking medicated on alcohol, and only then could I just shake hands and look people directly in the eye. I couldn't.
We had to do that, but no, you're right. Like, because it's funny you should say it, and you have so much stage experience. But myself and Eamon were kind of wrestling with the same things. Was like, what do they actually want from us? Because you're like you said, you kind of, even we did, and we're not stand-up comics. Like, you kind of do fall into that thing where you're reaching for the laughs, and you're like, that's what we should be doing when we're on stage. Is more what you kind of feel like you're trying to figure it out and go, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do here? Like, what do people want from you? But it works out in the end. It's a great time. Yeah, brilliant.
I felt okay in my head because I'd seen Blind Boy.
Yeah. He does a good live show.
Well, I mean, my argument was I was kind of looking around going, what the fuck is this? I'll be honest with you. I was watching and he's sitting up there, just him on a chair, another bloke on a chair, and the other guy was like an expert in fucking
whatever. Yeah,
I was a fucking expert in fucking in frogs or something.
Yeah.
And he's just sucking away in a vape, like with the bag going, go on, tell us more about the tell us more about the you know, the hermaphrodite frog from Bolivia. And he just sat back and set this by rolling, like, and people were looking around going, and then he just chime in every so often and goes, so what you have is the hermaphrodite will have, and he'll just go, yurt, and people lost
They
it.
love it, yeah.
And they're losing. I'm looking around because I have to be the critical eye comedian. I cannot. I'm fucking terrible, right? You know, if a thing is amazing, I love. But I'm genuinely looking, going, if that was just me sitting there, and my face is exposed, but I had a plastic bag on my head, and I'm sucking on a vape, and I'm going, yurt, like nobody's giving it to me. Like they're going, what the fuck did we?
Do you know what's really interesting is that, and it's the only medium I've ever seen it, because I grew up in bands a lot, say when I was 16 and on. And it's always like, you're always cool to the other bands, but secretly everyone's like, we're fucking better than them. They're fucking shit. And I've seen it, you know, I'd imagine a lot of kind of creative stuff when you're getting on a stage is like that. The only time I've ever seen it where people are legitimately all cool to each other within the community are podcasts. Everyone is so fucking nice to each other. And it's almost like, and Rob said it to me as well, like the people who are coming to see the show, they're actually dying for you to do great. So like that yurt that you hear on you know, your fucking iPhone or whatever, it's worth like 10 yurts in real life, maybe 100 yurts. Do you know, because people are so fucking
more yurts than a Mongolian fucking tribe. Do they live in yurts?
It's warmer than a real yurt.
I feel like I'm wrong with Mongolians. Who lives in yurts?
No, you're right. You're Mongolians. I'm playing that Japanese game where you be killing lads, and I'm infiltrating all the boys as Mongolian yurts. I'm upending them. They'll get out of Japan by the time I'm done with them, I tell you that now.
But by the end of the show, I could see why people were in love with him. Like I was like, totally. And then it spun my mind back to a few years previous where I was in Electric Picnic, and I was out we'll call it the artists area, but it was just fucking Harris fence, builder's fencing, just around where we were drinking cans, and myself and Blind Boy were just chatting about Limerick and Panto actually and stuff like that, and theatre and stuff. And like grown men were trying to climb, like they were 12-year-old girls getting over to like fucking Justin Bieber. Like lads had brought things they made. Like one guy was he was a blacksmith. He made like this bracelet. He's like, I made this for you two guys. And like you're going, yes, this one. Going, the fuck?
It's parasocial, isn't it?
It's amazing.
And you don't really intend that. And I'm the same when I listen to podcasts. It's like if you have someone in your ear for like an hour or two and you relate to them. Yeah. Even with Blind Boy, like I'd relate to a lot of the stuff that he says, and we're about the same age. We're into the same shit growing up. So when you hear it, you're like, oh, I fucking know him, but he don't know me. And you don't that's something that you don't really put together. So that's the thing with the live show, I suppose, is that everyone there does in a sense know what they've heard of you. And you know, me and Eamon would be quite candid on the podcast. We talk about whatever, so they do have a bit of there's a want there to kind of get on well with you. And as well, like I don't even think you could probably just shit on the stage and they'd clap, like, which is not so much a bad thing against them, but I think it's just the way it is with podcasts. You build up a relationship, you know. And
that it's and I learned that, oh yes, this is a live podcast. This makes sense. So because on my head I'm going, you have to be singing and dancing. No, you don't, of course. And Blind Boy is doing this perfectly. So I felt like a bit of a bollocks by the end of it, going, but educated, I would say. You know, I was like, oh, right. People love you anyway, right. I get
that's what it is. Yeah.
And he's got such like a unique mind. Like when I listen to his podcast, I'm like, shit, yeah, like this, the way he sort of makes comparisons. Like it's just really interesting. You know, and like I think he's probably just naturally attuned to that medium. Whereas for other people, you know, even just the idea of having a conversation for an hour and a half is like, fuck, I don't want to do that. You know, not that I'm one of those people, but like I can understand. Like I'd say if I got me dad on the podcast, unless he was 6 pints deep, you might get 1 yard out of him. You know, like that'd be it.
Me and your dad have a good chat now, but I guarantee
Robert. No way, Ryan. Coronation Street is starting soon, Robert. Is this podcast about to wind up? Me dad's like one of those old dudes that's just like real stoic, real quiet, doesn't say a lot, is actually very funny. but probably needs a pint or two just to take the edge off in
That's
order to
basically
get
all
there.
of Ireland,
That's
really,
all
isn't
of
it?
Irish
That's
jazz,
everybody. Yeah, that's. But it's something that I noticed because I do a live podcast. I don't record it or anything, but on Zoom with the Patreons every couple of weeks. And what's great is you see the same people coming back and how much more confident they've gotten speaking confidently to the group. Like,
That's a cool idea. So hang on,
that is a very cool idea.
What way do you do that then? So they all jump in onto the Zoom meeting and you just basically record for an hour or two, is it?
No, don't record because that allows people to get loosey goosey. Then you see,
cool.
you know what I mean?
That's
and people,
a very good idea. Yeah.
What people do is there's plenty of people that just I tell them, lurk if you're not feeling confident, leave the camera off and stay in the background. I won't draw, hey, turn on your, or say hello. None of that. If you want to stay in the back and just watch the fucking crack, like, and a good few people do. Yeah. But the same, like, and they're bringing great stories because they're like, I have one for him. But what's brilliant too is the piss taking that we've now developed. Like, I've become friends with these people.
Yeah,
even though I've never met most of them. But what you'll find is the confidence that they've built. Because of course I'm coming on going, well, how's it going? From the get go.
Yeah.
But now, rather than going waiting their turn, they're doing what Irish people, and there's people from other nations too, they're doing what people should do who are friendly with each other and up for they rip into each other and talk over and fucking don't even let the ball hit the ground. And it's fucking cool to see it. But what I've seen the through line from not being confident at all, speaking publicly, to nearly being their own fucking podcast in a sense, like, there'll be two ripping the fucking piss out of each other and going, this is great, and all I'll do is stitch it together and kind of I'll keep it in line time wise, you know what I mean? We go for an hour or whatever, and people tend to have a drink and have a bit of crack, you know what I mean? But there'll be a loose subject. But what's great about the not recording, because I recorded the first two and people were a bit tight, I said, I'm not fucking recording this. This is purely for people that want it. And we'll just straight away, you'd see it going, so this fucking tramp. Right. You're like, this is exactly what I wanted. It's perfect.
That's cool. Yeah, maybe we'll try that. Yeah,
that's a great idea. Yeah, I'd love to try that. Because again, we found as well, like, it's such a nice thing when you actually meet, because we had a couple of guys come quite a far way for the show, and we hung out with them, prior to the show. And it was such a nice thing to be like, oh, deadly, these people are like as nice and easygoing and cool and just sweet as they appeared to be when we talked to him on the Discord or whatever. Like, it's so nice to have it's almost like a ready-made friendship,
Yeah, I mean, it's a great filter is the wrong word, but I suppose it is kind of a filter, not in stand-up. It's it's the collection of society typically. You're not the wild sense. You're not all the way down to the lad with one tooth who likes to fucking lick the buttons at the traffic stop, all the way up to fucking, Lord Fluffington McFluffingtonson, wearing a cravat into the shower. Like, but even if you're fine tuning your people with a podcast, because and by the time you've been going a couple of years, you'll find, oh, ye fucking are right in my vein. I can't say anything that would get me fucking cancelled on my podcast now at the minute. I can't say anything because they know I'm messing bollocks and I'm not a bad whore. Do you know what I mean? And they're all broad-minded people. You have the same sort of people.
No, we're the same. Yeah.
Sure, like our
last
podcast was about riding spiders for about 15 to 20 minutes, and literally, right, we got about 15 minutes into it, and I was like, why are we talking? I had one of those moments where I sort of imagined like a friend walking into the room listening to the podcast, or like a child or something. It's like,
my God,
why are we talking about riding spiders? And then I'm like, should I delete this? And then you put it out, and then all your listeners are like, that was one of the funniest episodes we've had in ages. Really enjoyed that. It was brilliant and all that. And you're like, what the fuck?
Well, you're on the money when you're talking about big exoskeleton ditties and all. Like, that was where it was going.
Absolute insanity.
There is times.
Go crack.
There's times when you do think, oh God, I should. That's not very professional. I should leave that out. But you're going, it's not radio. It's not. Yeah,
exactly.
I remember doing an interview with a friend. He's a great comic from the north, Aaron McCann, and he was hungover, and he was in Dublin. He was doing Kiltony. And I said, sure, look, I'll pick you up. And the car is perfect. I'll bring the mics, the recording gear, perfect for. It's soundproof. Let's do it. Pull up somewhere. So we just happened to pull up on the Keys in Dublin, and it was quiet,
Oh yeah.
and it was going great, right? And he's just howling laugh because he's just got this fucking laugh that would fucking. And out of nowhere, these two right little fucking scangers bang on the window because they see the microphones, and we're kind of parked outside the forecourts.
Right.
And the lads are going, here, are you smarty? And they literally tapped at it couldn't have been the worst time for them to tap on that window. I was up at 12,000 RPM. I had your man on the ropes roaring fucking laughing. We were back and forth fucking talking about Post Malone, and he was actually fucking Post Maloney, and he was actually a scaffolder from fucking 2 Mile Boroughs. And these two and I just snapped. I went from complete like fucking animalistic fucking humor purveyor to and I went ballistic. Like these lads didn't get to finish their sentence. And I went ape shit. Pulled up, ripped open the door. I'll fuck the two of you into the fucking river. You don't fuck off, you two little cunts. And they just, like, the two lads just turned snow white, these two scangers, and just fucking legged it. And I looked in and I thought McCann's head. There was that fucking, what I can only describe as a hydraulic hose of a vein running down the middle of his forehead. He'd gone into that silent dimension, you know, that laugh that isn't even a laugh. And we're still recording. I got back on. I said, don't worry, I'll nip that out of it. Mm-hmm. I actually forgot there was that 20-second period and totally missed it in the edit, left it out, and people went, I nearly fucking crashed the car. Crashed the car. Yeah, they thought it was a plant. Some people were going, did you actually snap at two young fellas? Because they could kind of hear them going, oh, fucking yeah. You know? So there's
a podcast all around that, man. There's I can't remember the name of it, but they record every episode outside. They just go around with the two mics and they just start interviewing people in the street. It's in America somewhere, and like every episode is just totally different. Like they might sit down in a park, or like you're talking about, just sit down in a car or wherever, and they just get talking to random fucking people. Like, and there's a bunch of stranger danger. Every episode is totally different. I can't remember the name of it, but it's actually a pretty good idea, to be fair.
Well, speaking of America, beautiful segue, by the way, Rob.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of America, we're recording on the 4th of July.
That's right.
And I always fucking irks me when I see like Irish people getting all excited by the 4th of July. Are you that fucking bored of your own life? But all the same, there's still some of the best cryptids and monsters and fucking ghoulies come out of fucking America. Like they produce it.
The best. Yeah.
They fucking, like, there's some class one. Every country has them. Every county in fucking the country in the world has one. But America, Jesus, they produced, like, we did an alien one time, and I did the Selkie as well.
Yeah.
Which he shows up in a few places. The Selkie, I think he was kind of the Outer Hebrides or something, was he? But the aliens one still to this day gives, I won't lie, lads, it gives me the horn. It does, and I'm getting worse. I'm worse. It's not wearing off. The horn is only getting worse for the aliens.
I'm glad you've got a big linesman horn on you, because the good news is that there's a really fucking, and this is for your listeners that might not heard, there's a really juicy, people that don't know us, like, look, we don't hang our hats on any of it or think necessarily that any of it's real. We kind of treat them more like comic book characters, and if they are real, they're real.
The boys were riding spiders last week.
Riding spiders.
Oh, yeah. How else are you going to get the powers? You know what I mean?
Peter Parker, the dirty bastard.
Peter Porker going down.
So there's an alien, so really good alien sighting, Tom.
This is Las Vegas.
Yeah, in Las Vegas, right? So normally with all this kind of shit, you might see a UFO, you might see someone saying they've seen something weird out and about, but this is actually both, and this is why it's really interesting. So I don't know if you heard about it, but what happened was there was a 911 call to the police in Las Vegas somewhere, and they were basically, it was a family. And the call is kind of weird. Like, it's like the guy is like, look, there's something in my garden. There's two things. Like, we think they're aliens or some shit. They're like, we don't know what they are.
Keeping in mind, these things are 10 feet tall.
Yeah. So
like, scary size.
Now he's describing it as 10 feet tall. He sounds kind of freaked out. And so at surface value, you're thinking, yeah, whatever. It's a 911 call, 911 call, not a 911 call, 911 call. And you know, it's whatever. So the weird thing to sync up with this is, you know, the way in the States now, cops need to wear a body cam unless they're shooting black lads, right? So there's
a special button that turns it off.
So these were out doing their job, and next thing on the body cam footage, you see a fucking what looks like, I'm not going to say it's a UFO, but you see something flying down through the sky on this body cam.
Blue blaze,
Yeah, no, it looks like a big meteorite, right? So they take note of it. They go like, oh yeah, what the fuck is that? That's kind of weird, right? And then they get told about this 911 call, which is all the same around the same time. So they're like, fuck, the cop is thinking, well shit, we just seen that fucking weird thing in the sky that we never usually see, and we've got this 911 call. So they actually go, just out of personal interest, the two cops do, and it's all on body cam.
Yeah.
They go to this house of the family. The family come out and they're saying to the cops like, yep, this is the story, you know, blah blah blah. It's a son, I think there's a dad, maybe a granny, and maybe the ma's there too. And like they're all kind of just saying it to the cop like, yep, this happened. And the cop was like, no shit. And there was no follow-up really. I mean, like,
well,
we're
funnily
going to do
enough, I don't know if you saw it, the kid, his name is Angel, so the kid who makes the call, he actually did a quick, it's like a 6-minute video where he talks about what happened. And he's like, I'm not cloud chasing, blah blah blah. You can take it either way. Do you know what I mean? Like, whatever you think is up to yourself. But the point is, he's talking about it. Now, what's funny is, obviously, it's highly illegal to call 911 and pretend there's giant aliens in your garden, compared to what had happened here if you call the guards. Do you know?
Yeah.
So there's that. That's one thing. The other thing is, obviously we saw the big blue flash that happened there. He's going online, and the family are actually, they've hired an attorney because there's so many people going to their house now to try and find the aliens and start to see what happened there. It's wild stuff that's going on. So it's a really interesting one. And here's another thing that's true. The kid was saying that there was black cars that kept, he said black cars or a black car that kept parking near the area. And so he was like, this must be, you know, the Men in Black or whatever. Interestingly, there was a private investigator who later came out and he said, sorry, that was actually me, like, because I was really,
I was going to say there was a funeral parlor next door. And
there's a funeral parlor. Yeah, he was lived by Mackin's, the Undertakers and the pubs, all in one. Perfect Wexford place. But he's, so like there actually was a guy there. Now, the kid thought it was the Men in Black or whatever, but there was a legitimate guy there who was kind of scoping the place out. So the kid was telling the truth about that, even though it wasn't what he thought it was, you know?
There has to be you'd assume, no smoke without fire at this stage. Like, now
there's a bit of juice to that one. There
is a bit of juice to that one. And I mean, all these flying out yokes and all the rest of it going, well, this is the tic tac and this is the fuck. I'm kind of going, I couldn't give a fuck about that.
Yes,
I want to see
the boys.
I want to see the boys. I want to see anal probing. You know what I mean? I want to see. I want to see lads telling the true story. Going, I fucking tell you, like there's that one from Brazil that was fucking.
Genius. Yeah.
And I asked a Brazilian fella, did he hear about it? He went, he did. Oh yeah, he says.
Oh yeah.
But he was saying it like it was the All Ireland final that happened. Factually, that factual. You know what I mean? He was going, oh yeah. So what happened there was, and he just started telling me about fucking aliens running around the town.
It's a mad,
They got dragged away in some truck, and the town was stink for months afterwards.
Do you know that the town has the telephone booths are like little UFOs now? So they have like buildings and bus stops have like, they're all teamed with UFOs and stuff. I was talking to my wife's Brazilian, and I was saying to Paula, I was like, have you heard this fucking Varginha stuff? And she's like, oh yeah, that's where the aliens. And she's just like, you want to wash your socks? Or, you know, it's just so normal for her. But yeah, it's totally over in Brazil. Like they're totally bought into it. And when you watch any of the documentaries, there's one that came out recently, like, Jesus Christ, it's so fucking, you're just like, yeah, something happened here, something weird happened here. Like
there's, you'd only be praying something like all we ever got was moving statues and the odd persons, you know what I mean,
couple of children of Mary and all.
I mean, Mary rocked up and all we got was an airport knock over the fucking thing. You know what I mean? Like, you think, come on, we can get a bit more out of this. Like, but I mean, I love the fact that as you said, like the phone boxes now are in the shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Boys leaned into it. Like, the boys
the
just
cynical
leaned
part
into
of
it,
me thinks like sometimes, you know, you do see it. Like, sure, fucking, do you remember Medjugorje? Sure, what the fuck? Like, where did Medjugorje come out of? Right, that's that weird ass place in fucking Bosnia or somewhere. Like, I kind of wonder sometimes, does like the local county council go, here lads, we need a bit of tourism or something in this fucking shithole. Well, let's throw Mary in there and see if anyone comes and checks it out.
To be fair, speaking of cryptids and aliens, like Point Pleasant, basically all their tourism is about the Mothman, and they're making bank because they have a statue with. To be fair, now we talked about spiders with lovely arses. The Mothman has some hoop on him in that statue. Oh, you'd want to see the big chrome arse on him.
Shiny.
Unbelievable.
fair,
Unbelievable. I'd let him take me away.
if they ever made a statue of me, I don't mind too much if they fuck up the face, David Beckham style or Terry Wogan.
Yeah, Ronaldo that time in that statue. Remember that one?
But like, you'd want him to give you a good hole, wouldn't you?
Especially
a juicy arse, and maybe a bit of heat up the front, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But, you're packing something down the side, like. See, it's grand for you lads. Probably have natural hoops. Unfortunately for me, I was born with upper leg and lower back. I have no arse.
Oh, you've the inverted arse syndrome.
I have no arse. Yeah. Somehow I have a piriformis syndrome, where you have a cramped muscle in your arse at all times, and yet no arse. Nature's paradox. My arse is too tight. Yeah, my arse is too tight. It's a puckering arse.
Eamon's arse is a rumor, basically. It's
basically, it's a mystery.
It's like a carton, kind of.
It's actually Luke Kelly's face is my arse.
That's
scorn not his simplicity, but like so basically your arse is the unconquered fucking zone that any like would be fucking jailhouse lifer would go, I'm gonna try it, lads. I'm gonna fuck it. This is his Everest. Is your arse? Is what you're trying to say?
And like he'd try it, and I barely. You just hear like dink, dink. I'd be like, fuck off, man.
You could play a game of Sabutio on Eamon's arse.
Easily.
There's an old reference for you, Sabutio. Do you remember that?
Fucking hell, yeah. I could never really see that. Again, temper issues and Sabutio don't really go together. Like, and I've had it's just inbuilt, lads. I don't have the ability. Like,
it wouldn't be the first time lads were flicking balls on my arse. Anyway, so it's all good.
Do you know what? It was only a fucking matter of time before they turned the corner down this alleyway, isn't it? Like,
yeah, we're all like fucking aliens in Vegas and Brazil anyway. My arse has Luke Kelly's face, and lads can't ride it, and we play Sabutio on it.
Oh, talking about aliens got us in the mood, yeah, for sure.
To answer your question, Eamon, I've always had junk in the trunk. I've had those big old thick fucking donkey legs. Always.
Yeah, Rob is going around there. Like, if Rob put a thong up over the pants, lads be chasing him around town. Like,
I've got to go there. Megan Tree Stallion.
Megan Tree Stallion, yeah.
Rob the Turk Billington. Yeah, I heard it. I heard the name. Yeah. Because how far forward do you go with these things? Because I mean, at the minute, my fucking timeline, because it can literally read my brain. Yeah. My timeline right now is just littered with. There's a lad. He's very knowledgeable but he's on the Anunnaki and fucking suffered and fucking Jesus. He pops up every 2 minutes, and he's so cool how he speaks to the black lad from America. And he's fucking class. Do you know what I mean? He's an alternative view, not view, but I suppose delivery system instead of some owl lad that looks like he sells chicken in Kentucky, like this lad is like, and then the Anunnaki motherfucker. I want to listen to everything.
And does he? I'd say the way he says Anunnaki is fucking class as well.
Class!
I'd say it's like class.
Like, I'm doing it no justice there, whatsoever. It's like the fucking Anunnaki. You'd buy the album of whoever like he was in the Wu-Tang Clan, like, you know what I mean.
No, it's we like. I think with America, if you're to go back to like the I suppose why there's a lot of cryptids. I think what happened is there was a lot of superstitious people that ended up in America. Like all those people that fucking risked their lives and jumped on coffin ships here in Ireland, and people that were coming up from say Mexico and risked it all to get there, or even further south in America. Like, and there was like the Dutch, German, all that type of stuff. Like, it seemed like they brought a lot of folklore for some reason, and the same happened in Australia. So like, you got this weird kind of melting pot of like everyone's kind of tales kind of mixed into one thing, and I think that's why there's so many spooks and superstitions there.
For sure, you probably have some sort of latent shit in our DNA as well. As you're discovering these new lands, you're also not like in the term of or in a scale of time, you're not massively far away from fighting fucking Gigantopithecus and shit like that. So it's all, you know what I mean? Like, I think that somewhere in your DNA, you're still on the lookout for monsters, and they're sort of legitimate. Like, when you think about bears and cougars and all that, like, there's proper stuff out there that'll kill you. But it is mad, and America as well is so vast. Like, from the forest to the mountains to the lakes to the like, all that stuff is there. Like, the perfect environment for all these little weirdos. So it's a mad one. But they like what I do like about America is they fucking go all in on the cryptids. Them and
Right.
Japan are another one that go all in on, like, Japan has a legless woman called Teki Teki with a scythe in her mouth who comes after you at the train station.
All right,
Sign me up,
fucking
like.
hell.
Do you know what I mean?
Techie,
Yeah.
techie.
Long black hair, long, long black hair. Yeah, yeah. The Japanese, like, they used to have they used to manufacture paranormal magazines where they would just like make up ghost stories if they didn't have any. But they're steeped, like, they have a huge amount of lore as well. Like we did like we're talking about riding spiders. That was a Japanese cryptid, was effectively a spider woman who would seduce you, and
Mm.
then she'd be like, haha, the more legs, the better. And then she'd like embrace you and destroy you. But
4 fannies, like, is that what you're telling me?
yeah,
This? Oh,
four
class.
fannies, which we just said just really means 4 used underwear, which is fantastic, you know.
If you're Japanese, of course, one of the in-jokes on the podcast is that the
Used
Japanese,
Gaku.
the Japanese just have some kind of used underpants fetish. Have you ever seen those used underpants vending machines over there? No, Tom.
I thought I fucking dreamt that. Are you? I did
No,
see
no,
that
that's
somewhere.
so.
Was that not
Yeah,
Eurotrash or something like years ago?
it
No?
probably was. Yeah, like this is the linesman coming back to you now. You're getting it from Eurotrash.
Jean Paul Gaultier going, okay, up next we are going to Japan where the dirty little jappy wappy people are sniffing on this. And
No, there
like,
is. Yeah.
yeah.
Apparently, like it's
And
I don't
who's,
know.
And, like,
who's supplying the jocks?
It's fake. I think it's
Yeah.
like I think what we ended up discovering was they're basically new underpants, but it's some type of translation error on the vending machines that basically implies that they're used or something like that. Is it even something like
It's
that?
something like that. Apparently, it used to be like Japan had this huge sort of sex scene, let's call it, in like the 80s and sort of early 90s. And I think that was the time when you could find underpants vending machines. Like,
Well,
you know the way
sounds
girls
like-
be selling bathwater and farts in a jar and all now.
Yeah.
We're only catching up on our friends in the East.
Mhm.
Like they had that shit on lock for decades before us. But I was reading a book called Tokyo Vice, and it was about a journalist dealing with the Yakuza and stuff like that in Japan. So really interesting. But a lot of the stuff where he would meet these Yakuza mob bosses were like various like hand job parlors and stuff. And Japan had this weird rule
How
where you weren't.
specific.
Yeah, well, this is it, right?
Just
Here's
a
the
handy
thing.
parlor, like, fuck hell.
So it's a handy parlor. It's masquerading as a handy parlor because it's legal to get a blowjob and to get a hand job in Japan, but it's not legal to have full sex. So these
Oh.
places will pretend that they're only giving you hand jobs, but like no one's going in to check, you know, if you're
Yeah.
jumping on the bad leg. Now, again, I don't know to what extent that's like currently, but certainly in the 80s and 90s, that seemed to be the way. So this journalist, he's a Jewish guy, and obviously he's very easy to see as a Gaijin or a foreigner because like he looks very like Arabian, you know?
Yeah.
So he's going around doing all the stuff, but he's just going in trying to like talk about Yakuza, and young ones are just like beating him off left and right. And he's going back to the wife and he's like, listen, this is after happening. And she's like, oh yeah, that's grand. Just don't tell me about it no more. So he's given carte blanche to just get like, anyway, great book anyway.
I mean, my missus, you know, geez, people go, geez, she's great. You'd be out late at night and all the rest. But like, fucking hell, yeah. But this guy's missus was like this guy's literally blowing sawdust by the end of the night, like,
Well,
because
this
he's
is
had to
it,
go to
like-
so many places to get a story.
Yeah, his knob's got emphysema. Like, yeah, he's having a hard time.
Well, you're talking about Eamon, about when you were saying about real monsters and stuff. Like one thing that we should mention about America is like that they actually legitimately did have big creatures there. Like before,
yeah,
like, we did like ages ago in older episodes. We were talking about like in America, like they were hunting these giant fucking armadillos, right? That were about the size of a Volkswagen Beetle, and when they killed them, human hunter-gatherers used to stay in their shell as a kind of a temporary shelter. So like a group of lads would be out hunting. They were called glyptodons. And when they'd find them, like they'd kill them, obviously use the shell, move on, try and find something else. But like there was those, and then there was things like giant fucking sloths that were like massive. Like these are huge animals. Like they're caves. if you've seen their caves in South America, these giant ground slots, like you would think they were naturally formed, like they're burrows, like they're these massive, vast caverns, probably like, 10 or 15 feet wide and probably the same tall at
How
times.
big was this fucking slot?
Massive. Like they were like bear sized, if not a bit bigger.
Here.
And so a lot of the time, things that kind of come up with us, and it happens here, like with folklore and sort of tradition, is that these stories could have been passed down over the years, and you've got some of the First Nation, like Native American people, and they've probably passed down these stories about some like large creatures, large monsters, and over time the tales probably still exist, but the creature is no longer there, right? Do you know what I mean? It's like it's like us with the Brits. The tale is there, but they're not here anymore.
It's I don't know if you need only live in the countryside around Ireland to realize every second person is English. They're like,
that is. I said that I was up in Kira's up in she's in Laois, like my girlfriend, and I said it to her because is every fucking second person up here English? Like I was hearing, and there's a lot of like little villages that are almost mainly Protestant still, right? It's quite strange. You wouldn't see that in Wexford by and telling you Vinegar Hill and all. We got the bastards.
I don't know. I think you have your own fucking constituency. I've driven through a few towns.
I went to the Protestant primary school. I went to a Protestant national school as a Catholic. Yeah. I'm fairly sure it was like a government-funded program to see how much trauma you would live with as a man.
Foxy head in you.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, and you couldn't have a more Irish-looking fucker in there. Big head in me going in there. And would you believe I got fucking slapped around the place by the headmistress for 3 years of my life? I went up to her one day. Used to get your sums.
You mean 803 years?
803. Yeah, sorry, forgetting about the ancestors. I had your little Ashling sum pad. Yeah. Remember with the little grids on it, and I was like, sure, did me sums? No, not a bother on me. Happy out now. Going up there like it's fucking 1922, I got them all right, I swears. So that's grand. Put the thumb down, and I had a tear in the page. Nothing serious. A tear that any 10 or 11-year-old might make on their sum coffee. And I remember this vividly, right? She looked at me, looked at the copybook, and then boxed me in the head. Like, just full boxed me in the jaw with a big bad ring on me. And the fucking Jehovah's Witnesses had to help me out because there was like a few of us that we were like all the weird people in Freaks or whatever, So we were all the multi-denominationals that had to fucking like, that looks sore, are you okay? And I was like, oh, you don't know. You can't even get a transfusion. Fuck off. Like it was, but it was mad.
Meanwhile, the one Scientologist in the corner is going, fuck, I almost had him. Damn it.
Yeah.
It was him who tore your book.
Oh, but yeah, man, that was wild. So yeah, there's definitely, I think everywhere in Ireland has but they seem to be more historically affluent than we are.
Yeah.
Which makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it is. Well, definitely around here, what we get here is a lot of people who retire back here with a notion of diddly-diddliness, that kind of way. Like,
okay.
I'd say that leaves them fairly quick.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
Especially since that's intertwined with republicanism.
Yeah.
It's a strange thing. I found that as well, like myself, like, because obviously if you look at the name, you'd figure it that I'm like half English, and I always kind of felt that I have relatives in England who identify as pretty much like strongly Irish or have strong Irish roots, shall we say, not rather than actually identifying as Irish.
I was like, can you do that now? Is that the new thing? Right.
You probably can, but no, not in this case.
You're one of the few people, like actually you and Gordo are one of the few people that if you dropped your first name and stuck Lord in there, it wouldn't look out of place. That I know.
Exactly.
Lord Rochford. Lord Tillington.
Tom O'Malley and Eamon O'Neill dying of the blight.
Dying, licking the spuds off each other's faces, like just going.
Yeah, also, but it's strange because there's a disconnect. I always found that with that kind of thing, because it is like they would, I suppose it happens in America too, but they would be very much viewed as English over here. Not that that's a problem in Ireland, but a lot of the things that they would associate with as being Irish would sort of, a lot of the old Republican stuff is fairly anti-English, so it's kind of an oxymoron in a sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, for the most part, I mean, it's not like they're coming over to
No, it's
to
not going to
dominate.
get
You know,
kneecapped.
No, yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's funny. It is a funny thing because it's one of those things where we can both joke about it and have absolutely nothing against English people whatsoever, which I think is kind of the most.
it's the most healthy way of approaching it.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
Jesus
exactly.
Christ, yeah. Like,
Because you could say things for we go out of that now. You had the 800 years as a common enough one, and they'll just laugh with you, and you laugh together, and you'll be like, "Pint of Guinness," you know, and they'll be like, "Sure, that was made by a Brit." You go, go on, you fucker. Do you know what I mean? Like the whole thing is, it's actually good crack to have that banter with each other.
well, if you didn't, then there's no friendship, you know, that kind of way. Because you're never,
Well,
you
this is
should
it,
never
yeah.
pay your friend compliments. That's just sick and twisted. Like this,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
it'd
yeah.
never be like,
Be
I
into
can
that.
guarantee you now, if one of my friends turned up and went, "Oh, class shirt," I go, "Oh fuck, I'm taking it off. I'm just going home."
Yeah,
Just wouldn't sit well with me. It's like, well, that's our friendship ruined.
yeah.
now.
And
know what I
you know that he wouldn't mean it. Like if
No.
someone says, "Oh, class shirt," it was weird. I was at a work thing, and some lad said I had a nice pair of shoes the other day, and I was like,
Oh yeah.
just felt a bit weird, like just kind of like.
No, I
"All
think
right,
it's
thanks."
a new thing, Eamon. Unfortunately, it's a new
The new-
thing where,
well,
yeah,
Yeah, the new generation are much more healthy mentally than we ever were. Like they're way more like,
Yeah.
"Oh, hey, how
Are
you doing, bro?"
they-
Like all nice, like being
Oh,
nice to people. I'm like,
I see
Positive,
them.
yeah.
I see them
Yeah.
at gigs all the time, like, and they come up. Although I'd
Mhm.
kind of gone, "Oh man, there was," you know, like you were, you know, fellas of our ilk will just kind of shake your hand or just kind of go, "Oh, come on, that was great," no, and just
Yeah.
get out of each other's way quickly. Like, you know, even though you may have, you know, changed the guy's life, but he'll still just kind of, he won't have it in him. It's maybe it's begrudgery, but in the most part, it's not really. It's just like, I don't have the
The vocabulary to
emotional
be, yeah.
capability to get this. Whereas you're getting young kids coming up going, you know, they're going, "Hey, I'm a hugger. Can we?" That was,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
You really touched me there with that soul. I'm like, "Hey, I am double your age. I didn't touch you anywhere. I honestly, can we just walk away from this?"
Yeah,
what,
yeah.
what,
You get
what the
the
boys go.
The youth will say things like, when I had the mullet, it was
Oh yeah.
it was ludicrous. It was fucking ludicrous.
I liked how far you went with that, man. That was fucking
Mm.
awesome.
Yeah, I
Lovely.
went to full lion's mane, and that's when I
Yeah.
knew I went. It was at peak. There hits a point too, and everything. You know what I mean? When you've had, do you know when you've had like a car that's still cool, but you've outgrown the car, or one or the other. You're like, or
Mm.
just something to that extent. The hair basically was going to get its own agent and everything. Like, it was at a point where it was like, this is. And also, what I noticed is, because I can't do cool, and I refuse to do cool in any way,
Mm.
I notice, like, I started growing at the beginning, you know, had a mullet at the beginning of lockdown, more or less, and I've been threatening one for years. And I noticed young lads started fucking cutting their hair into mullets. Now,
Oh,
it
yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
it wasn't as a direct result of me, but I went, I need to get out of the game. I can't be in the mullet. I can't be in the mullet grandfather here. Like, this can't be, no, this can't be the thing. So I've noticed now, like, fucking young lads coming to my gigs with their fucking haircut into mullets, and I'm like, "What you think?" I'm like, "Oh, for fuck's sake, I gotta pay you a compliment now, don't I?" Like, because they'll pay you one, no problem, no problem.
Yeah,
they'll pay you
yeah.
one. Like, and
Yeah.
it doesn't sit well with me at all. I don't think I'll ever get to that point fully where it's.
Yeah.
Like,
It's a weird one. It's almost as if we're seeing like the way that our fathers had to evolve from their fathers.
Oh,
You know, your
100%.
granddad never said a word. Your dad said a few more words. You're likely to say more words again, and your kid. You know what I mean? And it's just this. Every generation's a little ripple of change, but only a ripple, not a wave. You know.
Listen, and I've joked about this on stage before. I had a bit before where my wife actually introduced hugs to South Tipperary. And I mean, the whole southern half of the county. I can't vouch for North Tipperary, but I'd say pretty much the entire, you know, I think it's like the third largest county in Ireland.
It is, it's huge.
She was the first person to bring hugs here, probably 13 years ago now at that stage. And it was seismic is what it was when I went around the neighborhood, that a hug had happened. In fact, everybody within a 50-mile radius felt it.
Cause ripples.
It moved faster than most fucking pandemics, lads. Everybody was everybody felt immediately uncomfortable. A lot of people going to confession, they didn't know why. It was just it was ludicrous. But my parents had never hugged any of us or hugged. And now that I have it's not like I'm trying to outdo my parents, but it just feels natural now. My son, should we hug? But even still, he's a hardy little bastard, so he's not coming running for him every 2 seconds either. Like, but at the same time, it's a totally natural thing. And
It's
he hugs
good
me.
to know that as well. Like I think that's one thing that we would probably all say is like it's grand and all growing up and having the hard thing and whatever, but at the same time I don't think there's any harm in it the other way. It's probably a more healthy thing.
Of course it is. Of course it is. Like.
One of the lads actually walked into the house speaking of clothes the other day and he was wearing a fucking jersey. He was bet into the jersey and I goes, athlete fit on that one there. It was absolutely fucking rage. Because sometimes you buy them jerseys and you're delighted with yourself when you order it online, and then you realize it actually has those athlete fit jerseys. Yeah. And I have a couple of myself. I look like some fucking English footballer.
If you jump up and down, any part of your body that wobbles even a little bit is going to show up full scale in one of them.
It has never worked out for me. Even when I used to go to the gym a lot and I was in decent, what I would class as decent nick, you get one of them fucking jerseys. You see, what ruined it for me, rugby jerseys were great for the longest time, and I was into rugby. Because they were a baggy old fucking yoke, because they were meant to fit the fat lads.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden professionalism took over and lads started to lose the belly. And they just started making them tight as soccer jerseys. Yeah. Like, why the fuck can you not just, and there was no right way to buy one. There was
Stupid sexy Brian O'Driscoll.
This is it. And you buy one too big and it looks ludicrous, like you borrowed it off your dad. You know what I mean? It looks, and then you get one that supposedly fits you, and sure it doesn't at all. You have tits hanging out under fucking 2 udders going down your fucking sleeves. It's fucking disgraceful. There's no good way of going about it.
No, it's true. It is true.
But yeah, what you say, I think it's healthier way of probably approaching that. Although I do laugh, like we moved literally back to where I grew up, and he's doing, like, he goes into the little fucking shop up the road. And the woman that like was adorable to me is adorable to him now as well, and it's mad to see it. Like, but
yeah, that's cool.
But like he's run. But we were at a while back. We were at what will be his primary school, and like they were raising. They wanted me to give a talk about something or whatever.
Right.
And the school principal's great. Like, she's really forward thinking and stuff like that. But it was the school I went to, and in my head I had the place where corporal punishment was still going when I was on. But it's a lovely, light place. All the kids are really well-mannered, rounded people. Not like the fucking barbarians we were. Because we were treated like that. We were treated like fucking dogs, like, But, and now everybody were out to raise the flag of inclusivity or whatever. This flag that had a thing. And she pulled up this flag, and I'm looking around going, this is the Aryan fucking... Like, every kiddie here has blonde hair and blue, like every one of them, blonde hair, blue eyes, like blonde hair, blue eyes everywhere. Maybe one kid has a tinge of, dark hair because, I don't know, possibly somebody went abroad one time or something. I don't know. But I'm looking going, what's the inclusivity about? Under my breath to her, she's like, what do you mean? I said, look around. And all their parents are standing behind them. They're just like carbon copies of more blonde haired, blue eyed people. So there's nobody. She goes, well, if we get a brown one, it'll be
grand.
Grand. But
it's changing, man. But I think the way that I think for those, like, that generation, say your kid and even a bit older now as well, like they won't like that stuff won't even raise a flag, because like to us it raises a flag because we're like, hang on, I was getting the shit kicked out of me in school, and I had this happen to me, and I had that happen to me. And so we spot it. We're like, what the fuck is going on with all this nice shit? Like, what's happening?
Yeah.
But then a kid that grows up in it, they're going to be like, what the fuck? Like, they won't even think twice about it.
But it's almost like keeping the kid the way a kid should be. Like, kids don't fucking see poverty. They don't see fucking class. They don't see race. They don't see sexuality. They're just like, oh, I like playing with that kid. He's fun. She's fun. Do you know what I mean? And it's kind of deadly that as they grow up, then before they even really get a chance to understand the divisions, they're kind of being taught, look, there's no division. Like, everyone just be fucking sound. Like, this is like what Jesus was doing years ago. He's like, look, I'm hanging around with the whores. You all have wine. I'm after turning the Volvic into wine. We not all just relax and have a bit of crack together. Do you know, like, it's a cool thing that we're actually trying to do that and not just fucking divide people.
And it's happening more naturally than the media would allow you to believe. Like, you know what I mean? Like
for
they're
sure.
all talking about, you know, there's drag queens twerking, and it's like, no, there's not.
No, there's not.
There's 6 drag queens in all of Ireland. Do you know what I mean? Let's get real. Like, it's
I said
like,
that. It's one. It's like literally one fucking. It might be one thing that everyone just like batters around and uses as an example. I think as well. Like we're talking about the bigger issues here, guys. How did this happen? But
don't worry, we'll get back to Mickey. Don't worry.
I think like because my girlfriend is a teacher, and so one of the things that gets brought up, and sometimes it could be a bone of contention. I've heard people talking about it is like pride days at school and things like that. And even myself, I've kind of said like, well, you know, there's no sexuality at that age really. Like, does it really need to be addressed? But then I did think back to, I don't know about yourself, Tom, like when we were in school, you know, while there was no sexuality, there was definitely kids that were bullied for being gay, and these were kids that were fucking 9 or 10. Like lads kind of just sensed it or whatever for whatever reason, and they got a super hard time. And then as well, I suppose to a lesser degree maybe at the time, but it still did happen, is you would have parents that are maybe gay, or a family member that's gay, and so I suppose if you're just jeering them as we would have at our time, obviously it would put them out and they would feel fucking shitty about it. So I mean, I do get why it's there now, I suppose, you know.
I think that the big fear for people, it isn't this stuff, because I think most people, the vast majority of people who aren't bigoted will agree that this stuff is really important. It's to your point about like that tiny little minuscule stuff that isn't even happening in this country. It's happening fucking God knows where. Mightn't even be happening at all. It could be like fucking Russian bots trying to fool us all. But it's like you know, like you said, drag queens doing highly sexualized book readings or something, which totally, I can see why people will be like, oh, what about that? You know, teaching kids as young as 7 or 11 about like gay oral sex and gay sex. Like, there's no reason for that, but there's a very much an important reason for everyone to be included and to be, you know, respected as an individual. And I think that's the thing, like that. It's weird. Like I've been kind of following that a bit on the outskirts, and I'm trying to figure out who's actually peddling this stuff. Like this barely 0.1% of stuff that maybe is happening by some head balls out there in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's funny, and I suppose I'll resound that with another example of peddling stuff that isn't really happening. But as far as the pride stuff, I'd like it to be so in the same way, like in comedy, I don't like referring to other like female comics as female comics. I just funny should be fucking funny, and that's all that should matter. Same as way we should get to a point where there should be no pride. We're all just kind of androgynous, easygoing versions, you know, handy. Everybody's going handy. And if somebody's gay, it's like, oh yeah. So I have a gay dog. That's the finest. Do you know, like for it to be brought up, I think it's because I'm deeply uninterested in anybody's race, their religious beliefs, or unless it's a really mad religion. Like, do you know,
unless they're unless they're throwing it in your face, like every time you sit down with them, they're trying to convert you to this, that, like, because that's just not fun. Same way as if you have a gay friend and every time you sit down with him, he's trying to get you to suck him off, you'd be like, yeah, man. Well, no, if he's trying to suck your Mickey, maybe hang around him a few, you know, that'd be like,
like,
you know, that'd be grand. But yeah, it's like, as long as people are cool, like that's it. Just as long as you're cool, you're fun to be around. And that's it.
And for the most part, and this is the thing, for the most part, there probably isn't an awful need in any peddling of anything, because your average person, and I meet a huge amount of people, and in large swathes, I can gauge rooms. And that's the actual general populace. You can do your red seed poll, and you can do, but when you're physically trying to entertain people with words that you're testing them with in large groups, it's one of the best litmus tests of where the public's minds are going. If you're actually in a room, because the one constant is the words that you're the one person, and you're trying all different aspects. And I do a lot of observational comedy, as well as, I suppose, storytelling and stuff like that. So a little bit of crowd work as well, just to get the vibe of the room. But what you find is this whole thing, the amount of people that ask me, is comedy must be really hard nowadays with all the cancel culture. And you're like, are you fucking joking me? People want you to say wilder shit than you've ever had, because nobody wants to buy into there is such a little percentage of people who are actually get offended by things that it's you wouldn't quantify it if it was a fucking Veruca or if it was a fucking if this was coming out of your account on a monthly basis, you wouldn't even notice
You'd
it,
never
no matter
miss
how
it.
poor
Yeah,
you are.
yeah.
Sure, man,
That's
it's
how
just, it's a straw
there's
poll
nobody.
puppet. Like it's like I think what's happened with the cancel culture thing is I think a lot of very influential people that reach a lot of ears have made it way bigger than it actually is, and it's like this straw man or like kind of like a dog whistle. I think among a lot of conservative commentators is that there's this cancel culture which also then gets lumped in with like woke ideology, but it's like it's not really though. There isn't. Now there are times where agendas do come across and it will happen. Like me and Eamon, we're jumping onto YouTube soon with the video podcast and we'll be learning all about it, but like you can get demonetized on YouTube for saying shit that you shouldn't really be getting demonetized
listen,
for.
No, yeah.
Even by mentioning Gordo's name, I swear to God, I'm not joking with you there.
Black helicopters outside the house.
I got a strike for what was it? It was the live podcast. And we were just talking aliens.
Yeah.
Mostly aliens and fucking mad fucking, you know. And a bit of questioning came up about the old magic C word.
Yeah.
And fuck me. Like it was just taken down. That was it. And it was all in good Mickey taking fucking entertaining because it was literally a crowd of 100 and odd people in front of us. It was all to be entertaining, and it was just no fucking way are we leaving this up. No.
There was lads that were saying about cancel culture, and like how I know it's not true is there's been like some really high profile American comics who've been like accused of rape and everything, and they're back doing comedy. Yeah. So I'm like, cancel culture isn't really that big of a thing. Like even Louis C.K., like he was wanking in the corner like the Blair Witch, and he's not. and he's back, like, you know what I mean? It's not cancel culture. Like
he literally did a show about him wanking. He literally made a fortune off telling the story. Going, what am I like?
I think that's why I'm saying, like, that's sometimes why I feel like it's a bit of a dog whistle. Is like, oh, you think there's a cancel culture too, right? Okay, yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah, there's definitely like some.
I think for him, he was cancelled for a bit. Which, to be fair, is probably...
He needed no time out there.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, I can understand. And again, it's kind of like, even say now, like, people are saying, they're not cancelling Bud Light, but there's a backlash to people being like that they're, what would you say? That they're not, they're being disingenuous with their advertising, and it's pissing off their sort of main audience, you know? And like, it's almost like the same thing. Like, it's just whoever the public are that cancels you. It's not from one side or another. Do you know what I mean? Or at least it's normally like it's not going to be that way.
The handful of people that I knew of here in Ireland that were rowing in on those kind of things were they were deeply unhappy people with other things anyway, and they found themselves. And there was a handful of very untalented people had found. Well, hold on, this is a great stick to beat a drum with, like, and you're going, because I've no ability to beat it with anything else. I've actually no talent. So what
I wouldn't care about this if I did have talent, because I'd be too invested in trying to make cool shit. Like,
and you nailed it there, Eamon, because counterparts that would be seen, I guess, as colleagues, maybe, or you know, colleagues in arms along the same lines, without actually spelling it out too hard. But I mean, they just Homer Simpson into the hedge. You know, in these moments, they're like, "Oh no, you're grand. I'll stay tipping in my road here, and you stay tipping in whatever the fuck you're doing over there because I have money to be making." And
exactly.
And these fucking little pockets of very angry people were popping up, going blah 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 blah. And this, I've never seen it scare people as quick. I was like, "What the fuck are y'all scared of? Just fucking delete Twitter." Or leave the phone down. I'll get scared if some cunt turns up to my door with a gun up my fucking nose. That's when I'll get scared. And if he doesn't have one up my fucking nose, I'll shove one up his fucking nose. Like, that's when we'll get scared. You've never had your fucking jaw broken, like, with a punch. If you're getting scared by some cunt on Twitter. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Like, you've never actually been in a fist fight, like.
No, you get your fucking head handed to you with a couple of fucking hard slaps, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, everything's in perspective right now. Everything's in perspective right now, because nothing gets much more worse than this. Next step is death. That's where we're at. Like, I rolled the car nose to end 9 times across a fucking field. And after that, after climbing out of that cunt, I was like, all right, yeah. And I didn't know about Twitter at the time, but I was pretty sure my brain logged it, going, there'll be nothing that will stress you after this. This is fine. but
Strange
I'm
thing.
not advising people to do that. But at the same time, a bit of perspective, like, you know,
Yeah,
you'll be all right rather than taking things all so seriously. And that's why what I love doing the podcast and why I love your podcast, because, you know, while I'm listening, I often think as a podcaster of the people that listen to years going, oh, should they know the boys are having, there's not a bad bone in the boys' bodies. And they're still saying the fucking funniest, maddest, wild shit, you know, in between all of this, like riding spiders, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
having a crack with it, like,
and
yeah.
everybody gets it. And that's
Gordo
what,
summed it up the best, man. He just said that Monster Fuzz is like if you're at a house party and you walk downstairs into the basement of the house party, and it's like 4 a.m. and you find 2 lads stoned out with their head talking absolute shit. That's Monster Fuzz, basically. You're
Yes,
just eavesdropping on a weirdo
100%.
fucking conversation for
It's
an hour.
100%. Yeah. What I so with that being said, I wanted to hit you with some Irish cryptids and stories and things like that, because I know we could stay in America forever. I mean,
True.
I do the armadillo ones after blowing my fucking tits off. I thought
Check it out, man.
I thought them fellas were around in fucking, like, they were walking around with Ankylosaurus. So clearly they were around when people were walking around. And the indignant behavior of killing you and then sleeping inside you, like, that's fair ignorant. Like,
metal as fuck. Yeah. Mad shit, like.
Jesus Christ above. Like, but so I wanted to see what your belief on this is. So the Banshee obviously is nearly she's the Beyonce, really.
She's top tier, yeah.
She's the Banshee. Like, now, I asked my parents, because they're country folk, so they have all these fucking stories of how Banshees come about. And one hypothesis was that when, say, a woman died and she was being buried, for her to pass safely into the other world, a member of the congregation should wear something belonging to her to the funeral, i.e. her shawl for sure. And if you fucking well didn't, because apparently back the road here, there was a woman below screaming at the bottom of a boreen, and it was the woman whose funeral was happening that day, and it was as Banshee sounding as you could fucking imagine that this woman had. And it wasn't until the bloke who gave the story ran back up the laneways, like, get on her fucking shawl this minute and we're getting to the church, because she's below. And he's told us the story all his life. She's below screaming the fucking blue murder, because she's not going to travel over to the fucking other side. And essentially that was what they were taking as the Banshee. But living here in the countryside, I also recorded what could be, if a city person came to the country for one night, the most fucking terrifying screech over and over again. And what it was is a really randy fox.
Yeah, I've heard that with foxes.
Yeah.
Mad, right?
Yeah.
They're mad for riding, like, flat out. Like, they'd ride the spider and you at the same time. But the vixens are mad, like, roaring for it, literally roar.
Right.
But when you hear it, if I think I put it on my stories, unfortunately, I'll find it. They're fucking,
yeah, do find it. Yeah.
I'll find it again.
I'm pretty sure I saw that from you a while ago.
Yeah. Like,
a
load of my, like, absolute city dweller friends, like Jim Elliott, who's from the States, was like, no, seriously, Tom, what the fuck is that? Because it echoes everywhere, and it's like this fucking, it's horrendous. And then the pups sound like babies, which is even more terrifying. They actually sound like human babies sometimes. It's like, okay, all right, there's a whole fucking load of babies in the field over there. Jesus Christ, this is fucking bleak. What was your you've obviously done the Banshee.
Yep.
Several times you've been. I know Eamon has done her regularly.
We're casual friends.
It's like we're getting like the Simpsons at this point. We have fucking 350 episodes. It's like, Monster Fuzz has done it at this point. When it comes to weird shit, anyway. But yeah, for us, I like the Banshee. I just, as you were saying it there as well, like, I was looking over some of our old notes on the Banshee. Apparently, originally at least, what they used to say was it would appear after it was a violent or painful death. So you'd get one after like a murder. And yeah, usually she just wailed outside a door of the person that murdered or someone belonged to it at night. There was also like other little bits where some people would say that they would herald the death of someone as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so that they would be, and as well, I don't know if you have many of them around there. I find them hiking a lot. It's kind of hard to say whether they were put there recently or not, but apparently they used to kind of hang around, the old fairy mounds, like the stacks of rocks. And you might see them as well there, Tom. There's a bunch in Wexford. I can't remember the name of them. I want to say a fairy tree, but I might be wrong. Do you ever have them, that one tree in the middle of a field?
Yeah, well, it's normally a blackthorn or a whitethorn, they say. Like, and if it's a lone one and it can't physically see another one, you're never. And I know plenty of digger men that will never dig them out of a sight.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, that's the folklore thing. That's all folklore. I've been doing a bit of research on that as well. But those kind of ancient Irish things, like, they're always usually tied in with some story.
And didn't we have the No She or whatever it was? I can't remember the name, but the Banshee, the history was that you used to pay this woman money to wail at your funeral.
Yeah,
and
that's
then,
right.
And you'd pay her in pints, so she'd be getting rat arse and she'd die of the fucking
keener.
The keener, that was it, yeah. And so
a lot of my dark sense of humor immediately when you said no she, it was like, well, are we getting into the trans side of things?
Yeah. Well, she can identify as what she wants, Eamon. Don't be such a dickhead. Dickhead, don't you mean genital head? But they said, that was part of the history, is that they're sort of formed from some of those women who just, got bad alcohol problems, died, and then came back with a vengeance because, like, we effectively paid them in poison to do that at other people's funerals.
Yeah, and they'd cry at the funerals as well with the whole banshee crying thing. But
were vampires invented here, or was it werewolves? Right,
Bram Stoker.
We do,
as I call him,
Bram Stoker. Yeah, we do have the Wolfmen of Ossory.
Yeah, but there was the Ossory. Yeah, because Ossory would be kind of north Tipperary direction, like where that was originally kind of. But I remember reading about one before, because I remember, like, mother would be very big into, like, books and stuff like that and history of these things. But I remember she called it in the Hourtalk.
Right.
And he was an evil whore who went around sucking blood. Could have just been a pure mental savage. I don't know where stories spun out of that one, but he was, by all her accounts, that's where Bram Stoker got it. But it got tied in with,
with
fucking Vlad the Impaler
and all that.
Yeah, we actually haven't done Dracula yet. It was only because I think around the time we didn't do vampires, because I think around the time I was wanting to do them, I remember Gordo put out a vampire episode, and I said, "Sure, fuck it, I'll let it breathe," and I just never came back to it. But yeah, I mean, Bram Stoker's story, obviously, there's Irish ties there, but I think he was inspired as well from some other tales from maybe sort of Europe, but Ireland, it seems like, with almost everything, there is an Irish version. And the interesting thing about that is, like, as you know, obviously we've been geographically isolated for so long that it's kind of fascinating that there is similarities with our stories versus, say, Europe, where maybe there wasn't any crossover. Like, we've had it where, we might do a story about, say, a Japanese cryptid or a folkloric creature, and likewise with, like, the South Americas, we'll do, like, a folkloric story from there, and, like, there's this weird similarity between us and them, and it's like we're isolated. Yeah, we're fucking isolated as fuck.
I think it's all, like, what deep down, all the archetypes in our deep subconscious from years of evolution and all the rest of it, and years of tales. There's always a real strong similarity, as Rob was saying. That's kind of part of what I thought is probably people traveling around over time. But then another part of it is probably at the core, all our fears are somewhat similar, if that makes sense. Fear of.
There's a great fella, and I'm interested to hear your take on it, because it would be definitely. I've been at the beginning of a lot of building sites, and like I talked about the tree and whatnot, and I'm just interested to see what other nations have these lads. But we are heavily, when you look into it, and there's a great guy on YouTube. He cycles around, much like you talked about. We were talking about podcasts. This guy, he's never on camera. It's always POV, like, but he cycles around and interviews interesting folk from around Ireland.
Cool.
It's a great YouTube. I sent it on to Gordo. He's like, "Fuck, this fella's amazing."
Have you got the name for it?
I will find it. I'll definitely find
it.
Because your man, he goes to this one chap. He's in Galway or somewhere west of Ireland, and as as true as the fucking sky is blue, this guy is talking and seems like a well-rounded man and a successful enough farmer. He's talking about basically his fear and admiration for the fae folk, like the fairy folk.
Oh yeah.
And like, you do not fuck with these people, like, any which way. Like, you don't fuck with the fairy folk. Like, he showed this that was kind of a narrowly little kind of hilly field, and he showed, look, this corner over here is where a white thorn and a black thorn had actually grown together. They were mixed race trees, and they were but he was saying basically this is the gateway. And your man, in fairness, your man must have a great way about him, the interviewer, because at no point did the guy kind of look like going, you're taking the piss out of me here. He gave him all the rope he needed in telling his story, like. But
there's a lot of folklore with every, basically, I've talked about this recently on our podcast, but there's basically like almost every tree in Ireland has this super rich folklore. You might know a man called Magan, actually.
Oh,
Tom.
yes. Yeah.
He has a great book. Do I have it here? Listen to the Land Speak is a fantastic book, and you might like it. It's little short stories about all the different folklore of like the different types of like rivers and stuff like that. But recently I was looking into the trees and Ogham, like the old language Ogham. A lot of the letters are actually just tree names. So like it was almost like a tree language, which is very fascinating when you look into
that's some Lord of the Rings shit, isn't it?
It
like, when you
is. It is. And then, as we'll get back to the Banshee there, this is actually ties in with you, Tom, quite nicely. Apparently, the Banshee only laments the descendants of pure Milesian stock in Ireland. So these are clarified as surnames prefixed with O and Mac. So we've got Eamon O'Neill, we've got Tom O'Mahony here. And some accounts even state that that each family has its own Banshee. So some legends claim that she could only cry for 5 major families. So they said in this one, the O'Neills, so Eamon's in with this one, the O'Briens, the O'Connors, and the Grady's, and Kavanagh's, and of course then the Milesians. Don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's from the Lower Gabala Éireann, which is our kind of old history.
Yeah.
And it's all in that. It's very interesting. There's a lot of stuff there. What I would say is, we do have a full episode on it. And it goes very in depth. There's Banshee Queens, from the two-headed Danann. There's Cleena, and she's the queen of the Banshees.
Oh, I've heard of Danann. Yeah.
And that's like a fucking epic, basically. I want to read it, or get like a sort of some kind of readable version of it. But she was the queen over the She-Dog, which was the fairy woman of the hills, and she was from South Munster. She's the goddess of love and beauty, apparently, and she's actually the patron of County Cork. But there's just so much on it, like, and it just shows you how rich all of the history is, that like, every single spot has its own folklore. It really is. It's fun to research, because sometimes like I like going hiking a lot, and like sometimes I'll see, for example, I was hiking maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago, and I seen that all the hawthorns were in bloom, like, and to be quite honest with you, I never really noticed a hawthorn before.
To be fair, and to hammer, you haven't been ignoring them. This has been a year of growth for hawthorn. Like, I have, like, we've a lot of them around here. And I said to the mother, was it like this when I was young? She goes, I've never seen it like this. I've never seen it like this.
They're everywhere.
Like insane bloom. Like, but
they're lovely.
Everything's
like white cloud.
My son got so excited. He was like, right, lift me up. I was like, he wants to go pretty up next. Forgetting he's a complete fucking barbarian. He caught the thing and shook the living shit out of it. And I mean, it was nice for a good 30 seconds, but that was the end of that tree, like, basically. But I'd never seen hawthorn like nobody has. Like, the apple blossoms came out this year too. It's like, Jesus Christ, when have they been like this? Like, the growth, if we are in global warming, I mean, Gorda would fucking whatever's happening right now, Ireland is absolutely fucking benefiting from it, because there's be fucking 4 cuts of silage this year for the farmers. Like, it's ridiculous what's growing.
And you're right though. And like the hawthorn stuff, so I came home, I looked up hawthorns, and hawthorns have a fucking massive folklore, even just as a tree. And you're like, wow, like literally almost everything that you can pluck out of the air, or anything you can see, anything you can smell, sense, generally has some type of folklore about it, and you can just go down these crazy deep rabbit holes where you're reading about even the functionality of them, like how they use them as medicine and things like that. And willows were one of those where they found, I think it was aspirin out of willows.
Yeah.
But what I'm actually trying to do at the minute is I'm trying to bonsai. I'm kind of into bonsai trees, so I'm trying to bonsai wild Irish trees and seeing whether they'll grow well, because not very many people do them. Like I'm bonsaiing gorse at the minute. I'm gonna see if I can get a good bonsai going.
Maybe something stout like an ash. If you
yeah.
No, there's not many of them. A lot of them have.
They're dying.
Yeah.
This is it. So I looked it up, and people were saying that by the time your bonsai gets of age, it will have died by that disease, because realistically you're talking about 10 years before the tree actually, a bonsai will look like a tree, and they reckon they're going to be all extinct in fucking 20 years. It's really sad, actually, especially with again, there's more folklore with the Harleys and how that ties in so deep with our history that they'll all be gone too, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the Hurleys even now they're buying in ash from the UK, which is fucking hilarious. Like,
really, Jesus, I didn't know that. Good
but that's going there too. Like, it's all going like they're only kicking the can. They're only kicking it down the road. Like it seems to be spread all over shop. And a lot of it is, and we often laugh about the Healy rays and stuff, a lot of it is the invasive species being introduced into Ireland. Like, they talk about the rhododendrons in Kerry as one of the famous Healy rays.
And fucking yolks,
yeah. But apparently, like, when this disease was spreading, like this ash one, like, it was in, I think it was, don't quote me, but somewhere, maybe it started in Asia, actually, funnily enough.
Probably did,
it started they kept moving the trees, like, and look, I'm sure not all garden centers like it, but they're fuckers for getting in invasive species in some garden centers. Like, you walk around garden centers here sometimes, and you're like, that's an invasive species there. Like, why are you selling this to people still? Like, just so some fucker can have it in the corner of their gardens, it's strange, like, because it's an oxymoron as well. You would think garden centers in Ireland would be working for the benefit of our gardens, but they're actually working against them,
Like, they're working for the dollar, son.
The best gift we got for our wedding was we got 100 oak trees, Irish oak trees.
Really?
From the now, when we went to actually, because we're like, 100, like, this is ludicrous. And the same guy is, I mean, he would fucking blow your podcast. Your actual Spreaker would blow up if you spoke to her uncle. He's a shaman.
Awesome.
Right,
like,
stuff.
it's like fucking sweat huts and stuff like that.
Ayahuasca sweat huts.
Oh yeah. Like, but he has visions, and they fucking do come true. That, like, some of his stuff does fucking come true, and even no matter how obscure it is, and through hook or by crook, he's become very wealthy. Like, we're out kind of doing a lot,
They're good at that.
But he just had an envisaged in his mind. He was like, well, oh no, you live in a property with a very long driveway. Like, I went, at the time, I'm like, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. I fucking just moved out of Inchicore. I wasn't seeing it. But when we left it go for a while, the voucher or whatever for these 100 trees, and when we did go out to the gardens, it was a big fucking place, but it had gone into NAM or gone into receivership. So they were all out of their oak trees. So he said, look, for 100 of those fucking things, I can sell you 20 good sized trees in pots, like, but we'll deliver them and all. They're big fucking things.
Cool.
Yeah. But they're all native, very cool native trees, native Irish trees that we've gotten. So we've 20 of these fucking things, and they've actually come with us to 2 different other properties. Like,
nice. And 20 of them, and they're probably fairly tall now, this rate, are they?
There's in one of them, I had to clip back a couple of them, but there's in one of them under like 16 or 17 feet now at this stage.
Wow.
So
they're getting hardy.
Yeah, so but I mean, they'll go in. The reason why we're purchasing the property at the minute where we are is kind of a lot of that is that it is absolutely, like, there's 300-year-old oaks on it, like. But there's something there. I tell you, you could be in that most hypertension fucking feeling, but walking in amongst them fucking old oaks and stuff like that, you're like,
No, it does, man.
There's
nothing like
definitely,
walking through those old fucking Douglas fir
don't
fucking
they call it
forests.
tree bathing or something? In some countries they
Yeah,
prescribe
Really?
it. They're like,
yeah.
they're like, go hang out in the forest for a while and feel
It's
better. Like I suppose if you think about it, the amount of oxygen maybe that it's putting out,
Maybe, yeah,
maybe
yeah,
it's something
yeah.
I
like
think
that, you
it's
know?
just I think it's just like it's the yin and the yang thing, you know. I always
Mm,
felt like, you know, say you go up to the likes of Dublin or any sort of big town or any city, it's like, you know, that's the yang. You're kind of feeling kind of, at least for myself, some people are actually energized being in that environment, but
mm.
I always felt like, fuck it, this is chaotic. And I do actually like feeling like that sometimes. So it's like, oh yeah, you know, whatever. But then when you get back or you go to somewhere in nature and it sort of just grounds you, like, you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I felt that even last week I was up in, I was actually in a bog up in Leash, but I was walking through, there was like some trees there and stuff. And I just had a fucking urge to like, I just want to sit down in here and just chill
Yeah,
out for
yeah,
a while.
yeah.
Like I thought like there was like a lure to just sort of be there. And I
I
used to get
think,
that when I was
yeah.
younger too. Like I
No,
used
I
to,
get you,
Eamon
yeah.
might remember when I was like 18, 19, I used to walk. There's like Fort Mountain is not far from where I live. It's maybe about an hour and a half walk. If it's, I suppose it's far enough, but I used to walk up there and just sit. And just chill out. Like back
Mm.
in the day when I used to smoke a joint, like I'd go up and smoke a joint, just chill
Ah,
out,
yeah.
walk
Ah,
back
yeah.
in.
The
But it's
trees
good for
aren't
the head.
enough to alter your consciousness enough. You need something to help the trees for what they're trying to
He's
do. Yeah, yeah.
smoking trees. If you
Smoking
listen to
trees,
Yeah,
Snoop
yeah.
Dogg,
that's
he's
it. Like
smoking
it's all
trees
part of
as
the
well.
same.
Like,
But it is true. Yeah, like I found like I've been in the city now for a while, and I'm at the point in my life where I just don't want to be in the city anymore. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like I'm just like kind of fed up with the place. But I will say, yeah, same. Like I just even going down to Carraclough, you've got the beach. You've got the dunes, you've got the forest all in one. And it like during lockdown, I used to cycle out there on my lonesome. And I used to love just walking around
Mm-hmm.
the forest completely alone. And I'd be having the best of times, and just again feeling so energized and so I don't know, it's just such a nice thing to do. Now, maybe it's part of it, like that has to be sort of balanced out with being able to look at high speed pornography also. Do
I
you know what I mean?
get you.
Like it's all,
Yeah.
like it's all like, 4 hours in the forest, maybe an hour and a half on Pornhub, something like that. But I think it's all, it's the yin and the yang to your point, Rob. It's all sort of, if you lived in the middle of nowhere, maybe you'd get frustrated if you had no car and you couldn't go anywhere. Whereas when
Mm-hmm.
you can balance the two out, it's like the perfect existence.
You can have Pringles when you need to,
Oh
but
yeah, you
Exactly.
definitely do need to
Not
have
every
Pringles.
time you want to, but when you need to.
yeah,
Exactly.
but it's I often because you're both kind of well for quote unquote country lads versus
Mhm.
what any person from Dublin would ever fucking think of. Your country if you
Mm.
ain't from the city,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
so.
yeah.
Yeah,
So maybe you're able to flip back handier, like because I know
That's
for a
true.
fact
Yeah.
there's mates of mine who are city born and bred, and they
mm,
would go into because their chest would cave in for the lack of, I suppose, populace around them
Yeah,
to
yeah,
yeah,
drop
yeah.
them into the middle of a fucking like I find like I'm not a man for the sea because inland county just didn't grow up in that,
Yeah,
like, but
yeah.
I mean
yeah.
I can remember mountain biking for hours by myself through forests, like, and give me
Yeah.
like, or just hanging out, just climbing trees,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
building stuff. But
It's funny, yeah, yeah.
you
Like
drop one of my
I
friends, some of the boys I know into that, and 30 seconds, like they're like the kids nowadays who can't last longer than
they're
10
not
seconds
able.
on fucking
Yeah.
TikTok. They're
It,
just what, what,
it's
what?
it's funny you say that because I have a mad affinity with the sea. I love the ocean. It probably will be my briny grave at some
I
point.
will. Yeah,
Of course, will.
I don't respect it
Riptides.
enough.
As one of
But
those sexy fucking silkies
oh
bouncing around.
yeah, yeah. Please God, we live in hope. But
Once it's
the
on
thing is,
Pornhub afterwards, that's all
yeah,
right.
exactly. That's it. Man drowns to death with strange cryptid. But my grandfather would have been a fisherman out in Dungarvan, and all my family, like, there's a mad just graw for the sea. None of them
Right.
don't like it. But I do think, like, a generational imprint is,
Yeah.
something like that, where, like, because obviously it's not like you just became a fisherman back then, like your granddad was and his granddad was, and that they were all fishermen. So it must be something really like deep
Oh,
wired into
they're
yourself.
absolutely. I saw something that blew my fucking mind a couple of months back. I had to take my phone, dropped it as we all do, and made shit in my
Yeah,
phone,
yeah.
and called quickly into the mother's because she has something of everything, and she had a drawer phone. She's like, here, this is one of my an old phone. Throw it's it's open before you go to buy a new one,
Mm.
or it's unblocked, I should say. And I
Mhm.
put my SIM card in, and fucking there was nothing on the phone bar photographs of my child and
Mhm.
things that grandmother sent to have, but there was a video from years and years ago. We didn't have a video camera when we were small, but my American cousins did.
Yeah.
And they had, my cousin, Doreen, who's a very thoughtful person, had clipped together loads of these videos and had it on WhatsApp and was able to send it over from the early 80s, like, and these different visits that, like, through the years that they had called to our house, these videos. And I'd never seen myself really as a child. And photographs, but never seen myself on video when I was 4.
Yeah.
And what was hilarious is, like, my child looks like me more now than when I was actually a child. So I don't know how that's possible. Like, but what was insane, I'm watching it with my wife and I'm stomping around with my cousin, full of bravado, the whole lot. I mean, if you close your eyes, it was my son. Like, not how I sounded, but the carry on of me and the confident shit I was coming out with. And just, it was ridiculous. I was like, but he would have never, I don't behave like that now. So how is he literally me from fucking 36 years ago? It's mad. And it's the imprint. And I mean, he was born in Dublin, but like I'm not joking. Like, he was walking at 6. I'm like, 6 months. That kid, we have to raise him in the country. He's not built for, he's built for wide open. He just wants to bullock through things. Like, he's not meant for footpaths and straight lines. Like, you just knew by him and like brought him down here, and it's ridiculous. Nude everywhere all the time. We couldn't have had him in a built up area. Couldn't, like, because he would have grown up anxious, not knowing why he was.
Yeah, true.
He was different.
Not suited to, yeah. It's like all that stuff they say with nutrition. Like, you can't just have a one size fits all based on your genetics. You know, it's like there's certain things that will be good for you, but like bad for someone else. You know. I remember reading, again, I should know the name of this book, but I read a book years ago about Eat Who You Are or whatever, and it was basically for, I guess, fucking Celtic Caucasians. It was vastly different. We cannot even process olive oil the same way the people from fucking Sicily can, shall we say. You know what I mean? And that was only on a minor scale, but it was certain roots, like we're not supposed to be eating pak choi. Like, we're not supposed to. Like, we're not. You know, we're not, really not. It's not good to, like.
I think so. Yeah, our system is shocked.
Perfect sense. Yeah.
Like, different things. Like, I think it's like tomatoes, even, like, which are new, or I mean, they found tomatoes in America.
Shades,
well, they found them in America and they brought them back to Europe. Like, so, and then in Ireland we didn't get them for fucking long time. But like,
and everybody I talked to that's done an allergy test, I swear to God, everybody is allergic to tomatoes. It's at the top of the list.
Like, I did. I actually did one, and I got kind of shit ones. I had dark crack, like eggs. Like, imagine me fucking having an egg. Fucking.
How do you sidestep an egg?
It's this with great difficulty, Tam, now, to be honest with you. I still have an old cheeky bit of an egg every now and then, but no, it's true that there. I reckon, like, and look, I'm just pulling this out of my arse, but obviously, you know, our ancestors grew up with they probably had at best maybe 5 or 6 different types of dinner that they would do. At best. And so
that was the fancy Dan Lord Billington's.
That was my gag. But it was like, you know, spuds with a bit of fucking meat, maybe fish, and that was it. Like, and so now it's like, well, I have to have me 5 veg a day, and I'll get them across the spectrum of, I'll have an avocado, I'll have a couple of carrots, I'll have this nap, and you do sometimes wonder. You're like, well, we weren't really like made to eat these here. I mean, we're an island nation, so you're like, like, are we?
And depending where you were on the island, you were eating either fish or meat. Like,
like Tom, your gang, if they stayed in Tip, like, the chances are they weren't having much fish. Do you know what I mean?
They're from not very far away, County Limerick, all right, but like,
we're
talking 15 miles, but it goes back many generations. But it's like, these were all beef people. And
do you like fish?
Beef. Do you know what? I taught myself to like fish when I moved to Cork, and because
fancy down there.
As fancy as it was, like, growing up, a fish finger was it.
Yes.
But like, because we're in beef country here, it was like beef, like, just blended and put in my bottle. You know, it was like, fuck, it was just beef. That's all it was. And still to this day, I know people talk about beef being heavy on the gut, and you know, sometimes, you know, I swear to God, I could just eat beef. And I know for a fact I'd be absolutely grand. I feel energized from it. I feel no fiber issues. Like, you know what I mean? There's no backing up.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
no.
Yeah, I never had that with
feel
beef
sluggish.
either.
But
Yeah.
people say it, and it's like, and I have none of those issues whatsoever. It's
I
like,
do be shitting on beef now. I've been grand on
Oh, yeah.
beef, you know.
It can, might come a little bit later, but it does come.
oh, it does, yeah. But sure, if you think about it, sure, and they're all the vegetables, like they eat as much fucking grass as any fucking animal, you know.
This
So
is
I mean,
it, yeah.
you're getting all the fucking greens you need. Hey, listen, we have
Yeah, we've been
we have
at
been
this a
three
while.
fucking stoners under the fucking a tree full of fucking banshees, fucking with spiders being ridden, hanging out. The fucking,
We'll do that to you, Tom. You have to kind of wrangle us in.
I'm only looking at it going, lads, we've been fucking this could go fucking another 5 hours. Like there's no
easy.
end.
Easy
How long is the recording actually? It's not showed up.
I'd say we're coming up on not far off 2 hours, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd say because it's
but
like 20 past 10 now, and we started at 8. So
yeah, we started talking at 8.
Talking at 8 rather, yeah.
Yeah, and then we finally fucking pulled the trigger. I don't even know. I'm glad there isn't a stopwatch on fucking Zoom, to be honest with you, because I'd be only watching the fucking thing. But sure, I'd written notes here, and why I even did that, because I've had to do it for the last few guests, and I actually. I'd say if I just wrote Mickey at the top of the it would have started the ball rolling. Like.
We'd be like, back in episode 125, let us tell you.
We must get you on soon too, Tom, actually, by the way. You must come on. I have a couple of ideas for episodes to come in and have the banter.
We'll tell you what, we'll do notes on that the Vampire Irish thing, and we'll get you on for it. That'll be good crack.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Jeez, why not? And but I'm going to be down here next. I was in Gorey. I was in Gorey a couple of weeks back. Fucking great crowd in Gorey. Gorey, I learned something from Gorey that it's actually 1994.
Yeah, it is. It has 1994 vibes.
Like, and I could explain away, or have it explain away to me. My patrons explained it to me that yes, some of the 90s gear is back, because I literally saw young ones walking down the street. We're talking. Tell you what I want, what I really want. I'm like, oh, but I will not accept seeing not one, but two in the one fucking town on the one night, not in conjunction with each other. Fiat Puntos still running.
Really? Jesus.
Still running.
And still running for a Fiat Punto is impressive.
Like Fiat Puntos are supposed to be like, fucking Pez. They just end when they end. That's the end of it. They, and you push them out into the sea, and that's the end of it. Like,
no, they're playing Pogs up in Gorey still. They have Pogs tournaments all up in Gorey every year.
They're playing fucking Suburio.
They're playing Suburio Pogs. It's the Gorey Olympics. It's a couple of games of Suburio, a couple of games of Pogs. I'm
bringing my show to the fucking wild fucking badlands of Enniscorthy just to see what kind of fucking lunatics are going to cryptids will come out in November.
Whenabouts are you?
November.
We'll fucking go to that. Yeah, we'll go. It's a
Friday night. It's a Friday night. I think it's a Friday or a Saturday night. Like, well,
hopefully all things going well. I should be back in Wexford with the house there by November. Please God, light a candle and all the rest of it. But so no, I'd definitely be on for that. That'll be right.
You're doing a lot of foreplay there with Wexford Town, Tom. You need to get down here and do a fucking show. Never mind your Gordies and your Enniscortys.
I was in Wexford Town with Delamere a couple of, and I kind of was showing the tit a small bit, if you know what I mean. I was leaning the other out from underneath the jacket with a promoter there, and funnily enough, then he was organising a gig a couple of weeks ago later, and I kind of left in there that I'm fucking doing Ennis. And there was nothing forthcoming from him, because he runs that town. Like, and I was like, okay,
I might have to have a word with him, Tom. Send me an old DM later on there, and I'll show how I'll put a fucking.
Because I've had nothing but graw for Wexford, and I've played Wexford when I did Caveman. I played that time, like it was sold out. It's the small room in the Opera House, but at the same time, it was one of those few times when you do in your life where you can do. Do you know, with 2 hours is just zip by here. And we could probably do another 2 hours, no bother. It was the exact same in doing that. I could have literally just said, good night, everybody. All right, bring in another crowd, and I'll do it again. It was that much fun in Wexford that night.
Well, sure, look, send me down a cow's head and I'll put it on the fucker's bed. I'll be like, get this Tom on, lad.
John the Baptist over there. He'll get all the heads for you, no bother.
Have we any inkling maybe later in the summer? Had I fucking thought about it? I'm doing the Cork Podcast Festival. It would have been fucking great to have you on. We might be still fucking slots still open, I'm not sure, but have you any plans on doing more live ones?
Yeah, like so we're kind of now at the minute, like, because both of us are acquiring property, as it
Yes.
were. We
Yeah.
are we're in
You
flux at
both
the
sound
minute.
like fucking Andrew Tate there or something.
Oh, yeah.
We're in flux, so we're setting up the studio as well, and of course then there'll be a push into YouTube. So kind of what we're thinking of doing probably is maybe the same time next year, if not maybe early next year, going into it. We also, much like yourself, we had a couple of plans where maybe we wanted to get other podcasts involved and do maybe a show, getting in a couple of podcasters from further afield in Ireland.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all there. It's just, I suppose, you know yourself, sure, it's trying to juggle real life with this side of things, and you're trying to fucking tick all the boxes. It's tough going, you know.
And it's not like you're a couple of accountants doing an
No.
accountant podcast.
This
No,
is
no.
it,
You're doing a podcast that is so abstract and so fucking
Yeah,
wild.
yeah.
That's not like you can be at work
No,
fucking
no.
going, sure, while I'm at it, here, listen.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Can I get your views, lads? Just while we're in the canteen, spider fannies. How many do you reckon they have? Like,
Yeah. That's
No,
a
it's
HR
not.
problem for me, all right.
It's not. No, it's definitely a labor of love. Like, it's an extracurricular thing for sure. So it is, like, you know yourself. It's, you're trying to make time for it. But we loved the buzz from the live show. Like, it was one of them things. It was definitely a box to tick where you do it and you go, fuck, we did that. That's awesome. But it's like, it was a super cool experience, like from just being an up on stage kind of position where you're getting laughs and stuff, but also getting to meet, like, putting faces to names and things like that, and actually hanging out with people was fantastic. So it's just, next year we'll probably get a few up in Dublin maybe and have a bit of a crack.
And sure, look at in the meantime, if there is anybody listening to this that doesn't follow the Monster Fuzz Boys, their merch is now legal. So pretty much legal anyway. I mean, allegedly.
For a short time only.
You can buy, or you can go straight to the source, which was Ting Ting in Malaysia. He'll fucking sort you straight out, that cunt. But other than that, Rob and Eamon of the Monster Fuzz of fucking Boyz. This has been, actually, you know what this has been? This has been absolutely fucking sexy and beautiful, all rolled into one. Thank you very, very much.
Cheers for having us,
Thank
brother.
you, sir. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you very much, boys. What an absolute glorious podcast. God, that was a lot of fun. Like I said, check out the boys. Follow Monster Fuzz. Their merch is ridiculously good too. Their podcast is outrageously good. I've done a couple with them. I'm going to be coming back to do a couple more. I did one about aliens 2 years ago, and I know I did one last year about some strange silky walrus kind of thing that lured men to the sea. If you want to hear more of us together, that's where you'll find it. But also, the lads have been on before, so go back through the archives, have a look. We're in there again with another really long podcast, but the lads are absolutely class. Like I told you at the top of the show, have a look in the link, click through the link in the show notes for all the tour dates, the hill tickets, the live podcast, and anything else you need to get on your hands on, like becoming a Patreon. Right, mind yourselves, keep your hands off it over the weekend, give it a rest, and I'll talk to you again next week. Good night, God bless, and thanks.